Hi, this is Tyler on behalf of WAPSI Innovations. We've got a 1968 John Deere 4020 here that has already been converted from the original John Deere remote couplers to the ISO couplers by a kit which is supplied by the OEM. And that's an expensive kit, and then at the end result is that it's been leaking consistently with hardly even any use. And following up with some John Deere service managers, finding out that it's normal even for them to have it happen after they install the kits in their shops, whereas the same thing happened with me on the farm. So we're going to be switching from the ISO couplers over to doing the Grove conversion, which sets it up such that instead of a barrel sliding in and out of a housing like the original and the ISO conversion, we're going to the quick coupler that is used on pretty much any premium modern tractor. Anything new today, it's a push-pull coupler. The mechanism is all inside of here. So essentially what it does, it isolates instead of the barrel moving back and forth in these housings, which is very much prone to oil leaks, as we can see here. We're going to the newer style conversion. So this is what you get. You order a box. Each box does one remote outlet, 2 barrels. So you've got instructions. We've got the sleeve, which actually goes in and replaces the original barrel inside the housing, and they're all wrapped up. The O-rings, another bushing, then of course the new ISO couplers, and lastly the dust caps that go in the couplers. Oh, can't forget the Welch plugs. We'll be removing the originals here, so we'll have to be installing new replacements. So we'll get to work disassembling and removing our ISO conversion kit. The process is very similar in doing the original style John Deere style couplers as well. And this is applicable 20, 30, and 40 series tractors. So it covers a lot of years, a lot of different models, but anybody that owns a 20, 30, or 40 series tractor that hasn't done this conversion is very well aware of just having hydraulic oil leaks in the back end of your tractor. And you really can't park it on concrete without seeing that oil drip. So let's see if we can make that go away. Alright, so we've already removed our first breakaway mechanism and started just to remove the barrel. But I just want to go over on the ISO conversion. If your tractor's already got this, if you're like me, you've wasted your money and you still have an oil leaker, the handles are driven or attached with a roll pin, just like so. And you want to drive that roll pin out to start with before you go and try to dig out the Welch plug. With this setup, you can simply drive the roll pin out. I'll go ahead and do it in this next coupler. Okay. Went ahead and drove it out. And there's spring tension. Of course, everything is good and oily. Won't rust that way, it just attracts lots of dust and makes the farmer aggravated. So instead of taking a punch like a small center punch or a small driving punch and punching a hole through the Welch plug from the top to be able to pry it out, with this method we're able to tap the shaft up from the bottom just enough that our Welch plug's flipped up. It makes it so much nicer to remove. Now, if you're working on the original couplers, the original John Deere style, unfortunately you can't do this, and you actually have to, take a punch, a smaller diameter the better, punch a hole, and just be very careful just to punch through and then get some leverage and sort of pry it out sideways. Once you've done that, with this setup, we're able to actually drive it up. But once again with the original Deere setup, everything's got to go down because our handle is attached to the shaft. So we'll gently pry this up and out of the way. And if you're like me, you can't wait to see this thing go bye-bye. So we'll have this out. The next thing we've worked on, so to remove these barrels, you have to get this little snap ring right in here, and it's a real pain to get to. But use a small screwdriver and kind of get in here and catch the lip, and once you get it, you can rotate the screwdriver and just pry it out enough. It's not a real thick, heavy snap ring, so once we get it started, it comes out pretty easily. Once you can get a hold of it with your fingers, it comes out fairly easily. And then we should be able to persuade our barrel rearward. Just a little screwdriver action. And you can get a little bit in the valve body. And you're going to have some oil, so be prepared. You're going to have more than normal. So be prepared to pull that barrel out. We've got our barrel out. Good riddance. Whether machining tolerance were the issue, I mean, this probably hasn't been used more than a few times, and it's leaked non-stop. So after removing the barrels and removing the O-rings, and by the way, a technique that's probably one of the easiest things to do, if you choose to do this conversion on your tractor, which you should in almost every scenario be able to leave the SCV housing or the remote housing on the tractor. Taking this little pick from the rear ones are not hard to get to, but the front side, well, the front of the orientation to the front of the tractor, using a little pick to get in from that angle. Once you get it out of the groove, you can use a screwdriver to push the O-ring and backup ring through the barrel toward the front of the tractor. It's probably the simplest way to accomplish that. So once you've done that, I try to use a paper towel, soak up as much oil as I can get, and then we're going to use good old brake cleaner. We want to get any debris that might be in there out. And I should mention, prior to doing this job, it would be wise to using high pressure water before you even touch the valves to wash everything off, make it nicer to work on. Okay. Let that sit just a bit, let the brake cleaner start to dry up. Probably use compressed air as well to blow it out. So once we've done that, then we can go to work installing the conversion and having no leaks. Okay, so we've got our housing clean. We're ready to install our final barrel in the project, making sure to align the pin, the bottom groove in the housing. It's approximately a 6 o'clock position. And we take great care to install these such. Oh, and I should mention, got ahead of myself, before doing this you want to remove this sleeve and bolt and washer. We'll be putting those on from the front side. And when I refer to front and back, front of the tractor, back of the tractor, it's opposite from the way we're looking at it. Okay. So you gently, because we're putting an O-ring on some square cut machine surfaces, gently slide without too much pressure. Okay, we've got that into the housing. So the next step is to install our snap ring, retaining ring. I'm going to put on my glasses just in case snap ring would decide to come loose. Everything that's nice and clean. You get one corner of the snap ring engaged and just kind of walk it in around, taking careful not to poke your finger or get something in your eye. Okay, snap ring is in place. So once we have the snap ring installed, next is install our coupler into the adapter. So you just simply thread it on, and it's an O-ring connection, so that makes it awfully nice. And when you've got good greasy gloves, it makes it interesting. Okay, starting to snug it up. We're using our 1¼ wrench. And we're going to tighten this up and get it very snug. We want this absolutely tight. Don't ever want that to come loose. Okay. That's snug. And you'll notice during this process, the barrel is still, it's retained in the housing, but it's not yet tight. Our O-rings are not yet tight. So what we're going to do is take our 5/8 wrench and screw the fitting on the very end that's hex threaded. We're going to tighten it up to approximately 60 foot-pounds just to make it snug. Then we're going to install our sleeve. It just slides on. I'm going to put a drop of Loctite on our 5/16 bolt. Just a little. and thread it in. And all this does is simply makes the rear O-ring, or the front O-ring tight. We've just tightened up the rear O-ring, which is about in here, with our 5/8 wrench. Next we're going to take our 1/2 inch wrench and finish and tighten up the O-ring on the front side. And this will ensure you're not going to have any oil leaks. And overall, this process is really pretty fast. Once you get the hang of it, 45 minutes is probably a good number, depending on how many shields and various things you have to remove. So we've tightened that to just hand tight, not overdone. So next, install our Welch plug. And a new Welch plug is in our kit. That one just kind of fell down into place. Sometimes you have to gently persuade them into the housing. And you can use a straight flat punch with this. I prefer a heavy ball peen hammer. That's just sort of based on experience. And aim right in the center of our Welch plug. And just give it a few good blows such that it swells out and fits tight into the bore. And that'll keep dust and dirt and water or any foreign matter out of there during the process. And lastly, we have our dust caps, and they just simply pop on. They just snap into place, very easy. Just as you would be used to doing on a much newer tractor. And our outlet is ready to hook up to a remote cylinder or stand in place. So there you have it. That is the WAPSI conversion to no leak remote hydraulics for your 20, 30, or 40 series tractors. So looking forward to being able to park it on a concrete floor and not have oil drips all over the concrete. So there you have it.